All right, welcome everybody. If you have just now joined us in this space, welcome to the best day ever. Female Founders Brunch at Chicago Day at Midwest House. I'm Nicole McCarthy. I'm the Director of Innovation and Venture at World Business Chicago. Thanks, that's my girlfriend. She's hyping me up. Thank you. Our mission is to promote inclusive economic growth for the city of Chicago. So this is basically my Renaissance tour right now, so thank you for being here. How many people are from the Midwest? Okay. How many people wish you were? All right. Okay. Just kidding. Whether you're from the Midwest, whether you're not, we are just glad that you are here learning with us and about how we innovate. In a moment, I will be joined on stage by two extremely talented, intelligent, and business-savvy women, three including myself. And while we could structure this, like a normal, very dry fireside chat, I figured since the two of them are absolute best friends, why don't we all take a little journey together and kind of go on a good old-fashioned Midwestern road trip. Because what's better than going on a road trip with your bestie, right? Does that sound good to everybody? Okay, so like most road trips, this will be about the journey and not the destination. We'll start off in one direction, we'll have some laughs, some snacks, stop to pee 5 times, and then end up in a completely new destination. And because we're in the Midwest, after driving for 7 hours, we will still be in the same state. So all cheesy jokes aside, please join me in welcoming Nia Batts and Sophia Bush to the stage. Hey. All right.
Hello.
Hi. Hello. Thank you for
I've got my hair
us.
caught in my Britney Spears mic.
Yeah. Got it.
And I'm not as coordinated at dancing or anything else as she is, so here we go.
I love this is new to all of us. We all
Right?
feel like Britney Spears right
We
now.
were inside like, oh, this feels like
It's very
important.
elevated.
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Well, Nia and Sophia, thank you so much for joining us here at Midwest House. We are so excited that you are here. So this morning is all about hyping up women founders. And so I know that I just told Nia about this. So Sophia, please bear with me. I thought that you could hype each other up. So instead of introducing yourselves, Nia, could you introduce Sophia and all the things you love about her?
Oh, I love
And
this.
Sophia, could you introduce Nia and all the things that you love about her?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm going to go first because bragging about her is my favorite thing to do. And I've been doing it, I've been saying for almost a decade, so for almost 20 years. Starting when we were in our 20s, and my best friend was the youngest ever executive as a woman or a black woman at Viacom at the time. And my very favorite thing to do when we were essentially toddlers running around New York City was I'd fly up from the TV show I was shooting in North Carolina to go audition for, some random job. And I'd have all day in the city, so I'd go to her office. And my favorite thing to watch was when people would show up to meetings. I was trailing her around. And they'd go do you know when Nia Batts is getting here? And she'd be like, I'm Nia Batts. And I was like, she's not the intern, she's your boss. It was so deeply chic. But she's just the smartest, most creative person I know. She's been investing in making the world a better place for 2 decades. She is a financial wizard. It took her dad, 30 years to convince her to come home and work at the firm. And it's changed all of our lives. She also gave birth to my favorite person, my godson, August. He's a perfect human. He's 2.5, but it's already very clear. And yeah, you're just a rock star. You're the coolest person I know.
I love you.
I love you.
Yeah, this is Sophia, I guess most affectionately referred to as August Godbummy. He loves her and thinks that she knows Mickey Mouse because she just brought him this Mickey Mouse jacket that has his name on the back, and so he told everybody at school that his godmother knows Mickey Mouse, so that also should be one of her claims to fame.
Thank you.
But when I met Sophia, which was, at a conference, interestingly enough, and she was taking notes, I always joke like a court stenographer raising her hand to speak. I was just so fascinated that, and this is, maybe 2010, 2009 actually, I think is somewhere around there, where you didn't have a lot of people that were on television that were also coming and doing the work at like very like heady conferences, like doing deep sort of sector and industry work to understand like issues and problems. And so I think I was certainly like attracted to her brain first and foremost, but also her passion and tenacity and how she's used every platform that she's had to not only do the work of acting or producing or, you know, what have you in front of the screen and for content, but using that as an opportunity to really talk about how she wants to be a part of a better world, how we all can, and really speaking truth to power, which can be a hard thing to do when, you know, you're, you know, plucked from obscurity in your journalism program in California after being the Rose Bowl queen.
Okay,
also
right.
a fun fact.
Oh, God.
But, you know, that doesn't come up on the Wikipedia. I think it's
Yeah, 'cause
really
I tried to
important
bury it.
for people to know. But, you know, the most loving, kind, and authentic person that shows up and does the work a lot of times when you don't see it on television and you don't see it on Instagram. And I'm just eternally grateful for her. And I love doing
That's
life
my
with
best
you.
friend.
Aw. Thank you both for doing that. I feel like that was better than any intro that I could have given. So some in our audience might think they know a lot about you both, but many may not know that you are co-founders, you are investors, you are economic strategic advisors, and social justice advocates. So to start us off on our trip, can you tell us more about your journey into entrepreneurship and investing?
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point, when we met, it was very clear that we were both dreamers who were really passionate about making the world a better place. I come at that passion a lot from storytelling, from wanting to advocate for people and get their stories out there. And Nia, thank God, comes from the executive side, and so is also a storyteller, comes from media, but knows how to make the numbers work. And so usually what happens is we hear about something that we want to invest in. We hear about a founder who's doing really disruptive or transformative work, and I get really excited about, you know, what magazine we're going to pitch their story to. And she's like, "Let me run the numbers," and then runs the numbers. And when it's a good idea, we do that. And so that's really helpful for me. She helps me not like get too far over my skis. And I think for us, being small business owners for a period of time in Detroit, I didn't mention this, but should have. Nia is from Detroit, and I have luckily claimed Detroit as my home away from home city for almost 20 years.
Yes.
We love it. We're very, very big on Michigan and the Midwest in general. I saw some friends from Tulsa here as well. We love you. And for us, being a part of that kind of ecosystem, of that economic revitalization of a city, making sure women, and in particular women of color, were centered in the storytelling and in the work we were doing, it also really led us to look at why are so many women and why are so many communities that have traditionally been withheld from not able to get over those hurdles. And everything brings us back to finance. Everything brings us back to the lending gap. Everything kept taking us, you know, to that incredible adage from Desmond Tutu when he said, "There's only so long where you pull people out of the river until you go upstream and figure out who's pushing them in." And it was impossible for us not to try to get to the root of the issue that we saw in finance, equity, lending, philanthropy, business, all of it. We were just like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna have to listen to your dad and actually get involved in money." Yeah, okay. It's a very grown-up moment, and here we go.
Would you add anything to that, Nia? I mean, I know that you mentioned being, you know, co-owners of a startup in Detroit, and I know that you've also talked about what the journey of being an entrepreneur looks like and the ups and downs of that, and being underestimated, and how I know that Sophia, in an interview with Success Magazine, said that being underestimated can be incredible fuel. So how have you used that as fuel, you know, going forward? And how do you handle the bullshit? There can be a lot of bullshit being a female founder.
And all the women in the audience are nodding.
Yeah.
I think we handle it because we have to. But you speak really well to what we've been able to do in that space.
Yeah, I mean, I think the business that we had in Detroit for a few years was a non-toxic salon and store that really centered women of color, especially in that footprint, who are, subjected to various microaggressions even throughout the course of just existing in the world. And we thought, let this business be a Trojan horse of sorts, an opportunity to have a conversation about what community revitalization looks like, who gets to participate, how you raise money for a business like that. It was called Detroit Blows, and for us, the name was about the lineage of the city, of the people. It's a testament to the blows that we've withstood, and we're still standing, we're still building, we're still thriving. But we had people, investors, where we went in and they just didn't understand it. When we were trying to lease commercial space, they said, well, you certainly can't put this on the exterior of my building. And it's like, you've missed the point. So there's a lot of gatekeeping that happens when you're on the journey of entrepreneurship. And part of what we realized is that there weren't enough women, there certainly weren't enough women of color on the other side of the table that had the ability and the capacity to write checks. And we also had the founder's journey. I mean, we see founders out here, and we have founders in our portfolio that managed effortlessly through COVID environments. Claire Coder there of Aunt Flo, we're very, very proud of, also from the Midwest, from Ohio. But every business did not, and we had to make a determination as to if it made sense to continue this business, or if we could take the energy and passion for the work and figure out how our time, talents, resources could be better served to invest in more Claires, to do work with the First Women's Bank around reducing the gender lending gap when we realized that 16% of commercial loans are going towards women. So there's a capital access issue that really impedes innovation, and so we realized that that would be an important place for us to spend time. But when Sophia talks about storytelling, but so much of the stories that she becomes interested in are really rooted in data. Like, she's a data junkie. It's always like, did you see this stat? Did you read this article? Like, did you see this white paper?
Guilty.
Yeah. And I think that is a lot of what fueled us, as well. And so when we realized that at the time, less than 10% of general partners at venture firms were women, and when the numbers were always worse for women of color, I think 1% of general partners in US-based venture firms right now are black women. And so it's like, that's a 1% I'm never interested in being a part of. But what it means is that there's a tremendous amount of opportunity to understand some of the challenges that we went through raising capital and running a business, and trying to remove that friction in the process. So for us, access to capital, we do not want to be an issue for our founders. We want to invest in them so that we can do the work of helping to build and scale those businesses so that they can be successful, because we deeply believe that underrepresented founders are going to solve problems for underrepresented communities. And if we can put energy around the capital that we invest, that is directionally kind of where we would like to do that, and how we think the world is just going to be better.
And for us, looking at how to support people who, as you said earlier, we know what it's like as women to feel and be underestimated. You all were nodding. I know that everybody who doesn't perhaps live in, the valley knows what it's like to be underestimated as a founder. And for us, when we think about people that are underrepresented, we wanted to be on the other side of the table. We wanted to become the investors we'd been looking for. And we know what it's like to invest in people who share that experience of having been underestimated or underrepresented. And when we look at even geographies as an underrepresented class, it's not lost on us that we're so passionate about our city. We love Detroit, we love Michigan, and it takes founders 24 months longer to raise $500,000 in Michigan than it does in the Valley. And that's not because there's a lack of talent, it's because the access to capital is being impeded. And so it's that sort of data, when we start to look at those statistics and we figure out how we could become the deployers of that capital, we figure out how we can support women like Claire, work with institutions like the First Women's Bank that's headquartered in Chicago. One of our founders, Darren Riley, is here today, who's there you are. He's an absolute legend, and what he's doing with clean air monitoring in the state of Michigan is unbelievable. You know, he's been tapped by the President of the United States. Like, it's an incredible talent pool. And so for us, we know what it's been like when people have shown up for us and helped us close a gap, and we want to do that for others as well.
That's incredible. Can we get applause for that? We need more Nias and Sophias in the investing world. I think we can all agree on that. So you're talking a little bit about the challenges of fundraising in Detroit. I know Detroit is very near and dear to your heart. And I mean, that's a city that I feel like is really known for Midwestern grit. There are tried and true founders in Detroit, much like my very own Chicago. I got to shout out Chicago. So I'm curious, what is, each city in the Midwest, each city in the U.S. has its own kind of entrepreneurial ecosystem, eccentricities, and culture. You've talked about the challenges, but what are some of the benefits of Detroit? What is the, fundraising and entrepreneur culture like there?
I mean, I think Detroit is certainly resilient. Like, it's definitely a city that has grit. It also has vibe, We are used to, as a city, people underestimating us, and we continue to work with one another to create better outcomes. And there's a beautiful community of entrepreneurs in Detroit. There's some members of the Black Tech Saturdays community that meets in New Lab every Saturday, which is actually where our offices are. And it started with 5 people who were just trying to work together and figure out how they could support one another because they were asking the same questions and looking for the same resources. And so Detroit has been one of those cities where the entrepreneurial community is very sort of enmeshed, and I think all boats rise with the tide. And so lots of people look at us and they say, well, you could be investing in, anywhere. Why are you guys so focused right now and investing in Michigan and investing in Detroit? And I think it's because it's where we see the greatest opportunity, even as investors, right? But from an early stage standpoint, we know that 0% of Black and brown founders in Michigan are making it past Series A of investment. So what that means is, in order to be able to have companies that we can invest in later stages, and in order to have a truly diverse entrepreneurial ecosystem, we have to make sure that we're investing at the earliest stages. So we know that we have to do pre-seed and seed investments. We know that we have to have a robust platform program that's run by Ashley Reed, who's here in the audience. We know that, like Josh Tucker, who's our SVP of research and runs our portfolio, who is one of those first members at Black Tech Saturdays, who is a white man, right? We have allies that are working on this issue that also understand this is where we can generate the greatest amount of impact. And so for us, it's like, if we can do it in Detroit, as goes Detroit, goes the world, right? Mm-hmm. So we're very focused there because we think that we can have an outsized impact, and there's just an incredibly beautiful and vibrant community of people who are incredibly generative and just need just more money. I mean, it's funny, Doug Song, one of our partners, investors, I don't know if he's here, he said, I think at a conference last year, he said, Black women are the most over-mentored and underfunded. And I'm like, yes. I felt that, Yeah. And so we're just trying to figure out how we can be a part of that solution for the people that we kind of live in and work alongside every day in Michigan and in Detroit.
Amazing. So road trip to Detroit, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, we're doing it. So we took a pit stop in Detroit. A classic road trip would not be complete without a good story in the car, or maybe in our modern age, putting on an episode of Work in Progress.
Thank you.
I just listened to the Ava DuVernay interview. I loved that one. That was amazing. So Nia, you in the same Success Magazine interview, you talked about money telling a story. Mm-hmm. So what story has money told in your lives so far, and what story do you both want to tell with your investing?
What story has money told in my life? I mean, what's interesting is when I decided to go into entertainment and not into finance because I wanted to be a storyteller, what my dad would tell me is, if you want to understand the story of an organization, follow the money. And so I have always used that as a way to understand the dynamics of how power moves and how decisions get made. And I think that that has sort of been my observational experience with money. Personally, I think that money provides opportunities, and I have always been most interested in people having freedom to make choices and have opportunities. So it has very little to do with my story in terms of what it means to me beyond like freedom. I think people need to be free. You need to be able to have the resources that you need to make decisions to build business. So I become less concerned with the value of money, even as an investor, and more of the opportunities that it provides. I don't know if that was as robust of a answer to that question,
absolutely. But Sophia, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think really to Nia's point, understanding the story of money is also empowering, particularly for women. Financial literacy and education are withheld from us. It is by design. You see women gaining more financial and economic dependence than ever in history, and you also see the most advanced attack on our rights and freedoms in the political sector in modern day history, and that is absolutely intentional. And I think for us, figuring out how to empower each other and being clear that we've always had to do more with less, and realizing that that is a bit of a superpower we all share, and using our ability to do more with less to ensure that the people coming after us don't have to do quite so much with quite so little, feels incredibly important. And for us, it's part of the reason that we not only work on the investing side, but that we work on closing the lending gap on the debt side as well. You know, we were mentioning our work with the First Women's Bank. We joined the bank as the second and third strategic advisors behind the icon herself, Billie Jean King, who has made equity, you know, as an athlete and a transformational feminist. She's made equity her entire life's mission. And, you know, she's done it with the battle of the sexes and with Title IX, and then she did it as a founding investor of the bank, because she said, this is still an issue and I've been fighting it for 50 years. And so for us to learn from her generational experience, from the women that we work with at the bank, and to be able to talk to people who come in, small business creators, and help them get access to that capital in that traditional sense of lending, and then we do our work at our firm on the, you know, investing side as well. We really want to have a holistic understanding of how the entire economy works, because women are the leading creators of small businesses in America. We are leading an economic revolution. America's economy is the best in the world at current, and it's driven by women. And to be clear, in our gender, it is women of color that are leading the charge as small business creators. So we have to be supported better. And for us, we love homework, we love data. Like, we want to get in there and understand each of these verticals, each of these systems, and figure out who we can work alongside to create the most change.
And I guess I would also add that, like, just going back and reflecting on this idea of like the story of money and the opportunities and the problems we get to solve, it's elevating industries where we've traditionally been underinvesting. And like, when you invest in women, they're solving problems that might be unique to women. You know, so we think about the work at the First Women's Bank and, you know, the care economy, and lots of women-owned businesses of which they're able to increase their lending capacity, whether it's early childhood education, daycare, taking care of elderly family members. So there are, like, you know, these micro industries that we're starting to learn more about, because it's really women who are providing solutions that are benefiting other women. And so I love that part of it as well. So the capital is one piece of it, but being able to tell the stories of the founders, being able to tell the stories of their unique approach or a way into an issue that only they saw because perhaps others were looking at it from a different vantage point. I mean, we've talked to, like, in the medical and healthcare industry, there was an investment that we were looking at, and this was sort of a cancer prevention drug. They ended up having investment from another company, but that investor was interested in doing clinical trials for a cancer that affected men, as opposed to this opportunity to fund, like ovarian cancer trials. And so the money is important because it's power, and that power, especially for early stage businesses and life sciences and biotech, and can really shift what we focus on. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's important for us to think about not only the capital that we can provide, but to really understand the power of it. Mm-hmm. And money really is power at the end of the day, to shift focus towards what we think is important and where we, want to make the world better and have more positive outcomes.
And not only is it mission, it's good math.
Yeah.
Making the world more equitable should matter to us, but we also know that it creates better financial outcomes. Companies that have women in C-suites do over twice as well as companies that don't. Companies that have diverse founders do even better than companies that just have diverse groups of gender. And so it's incredibly imperative, and it's also a way to just do better. And when Nia talks about, for example, this cancer drug we considered investing in, it was arresting to hear a group of men say, "Oh, you're the first people who've been interested in the application for ovarian cancer." We were like, wonder why that might be, because we have ovaries, I don't know. And when you think about that, when you consider that until 1993, women were not part of clinical trials, when you consider that up until recently, Claire's company, Aunt Flo, is working to end period poverty, they were testing tampons with water, not blood. These things sound insane to us, but you realize there were just no women in any of those rooms where the decisions were being made. Mm-hmm. And so our bottom line is affected in every aspect of our lives when we're not included in the decision making. And it makes us feel really empowered. Thank you. It makes us feel really empowered and excited to be in those rooms, to make those types of suggestions to researchers and founders, and to figure out who we get to bring into those rooms with us. Because anytime we have an opportunity, we figure out what it looks like for our community. Nia and I just were asked to be at the speakers at the first MSNBC Live, and we sat on stage with Stephanie Ruhle, and we talked at length about the bank. And when I was lucky enough to do a big magazine cover in October of last year, I talked about Nia and Claire and one of our other founders, and that cover happened to be for a magazine owned by She Media, and now the four of us are doing a panel on stage at 3 p.m. today. It's like we go together everywhere we go, mm-hmm. and it's not lost on me that it's rooms of women that do that for each other. And that's how we start to shift all of these industries as a really powerful financial block, voting block, and 51% of the population.
Thank you for answering like 5 of my questions.
You mean I'm a little
you
long-winded?
Just did
I've never
job.
heard that.
This is amazing. I want to do all of my moderation with the two of you. The one last question I have for you, because I know we're coming up on time. So clearly you are both just like absolute queens of intentional storytelling and championing equity. And, you mentioned, women getting hurt by tech. And just yesterday, you both had a very exciting announcement about a new venture. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, we're really excited to be executive producing a documentary called Another Body, which is available now on Amazon and on Apple TV. And it's really about this really challenging rise in intimate abuse online that we're seeing that's really disproportionately affecting women. This story tells the journey of a protagonist who is an engineering student whose face was essentially deep-faked into pornography, and it almost caused her to drop out of college, out of her program. And so when we think about trying to advocate for women in tech, new media, new technology has created new problems and circumstances that make it even more challenging than it already is in these types of industries. And we're tech investors. We have AI and machine learning investments that we're incredibly proud of, but with that comes the responsibility to make sure that the internet stays safe for people who traditionally have been victimized by that. That can be women, that has been children, it can be people of color, but we really have to think about investing in technology that is progressive and creating legislative guardrails even that protect us as we explore the expansiveness of this new technology. And the film is at times a heartbreaking journey, but I think that if you stick with it until the end, you will see that the nuance of this technology and how we live within it and in society as women is incredibly important and worthwhile. And I just want to see more women in tech, and the women that leave should never be because of intimate abuse online.
Exactly. And I think part of the desire for us, again, when we think about how different outcomes are when there is diversity of thought in the decision-making rooms, it's incredibly important as we stand on the precipice of what this new world powered by AI will look like, how we set up appropriate guardrails, because if we let it go too long and we don't legislate and protect people, we'll never be able to get it back. And so for us, what we don't want to see in that technology arena is a version of what we just saw in the fight for reproductive freedoms, for example, when you have elected officials who you learn in real time don't know what IVF is after they ban it. You're like, oh wow, this is incredible that you don't know how babies are made and you have some. Wow, so shocking. So the hope for us really here is to figure out how to advocate in real time and make sure that as some of the incredible opportunities that are going to be created for society by this technology are explored, we can also make sure that its most insidious uses are stopped.
Absolutely. I think both of you lending your names and your expertise to this documentary is just going to, the reach is going to be huge. So thank you both.
I'm really excited about it.
I'm very excited to watch it. We're all going to go home and watch it. Maybe not right after this, but eventually. So Nia and Sophia, thank you so much for being here today, for being incredible advocates for women's economic empowerment and insightful co-pilots with me this morning. I hope that someday we get to go on an actual road trip together across the Midwest and see all the incredible innovations that are occurring in all of our great cities. So where else can our audience catch you at South by?
She Media today, it is 3 p.m. is our panel,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't making that up.
Yeah, and then we'll be back at Midwest House certainly on Monday because it's Michigan Day, so we're excited about that as well. We'll be floating around. There'll be others on stage, but it won't be a day for us to miss.
Yeah.
All right, well, you heard it. Catch them at 3 o'clock today. Catch them on Monday for Michigan Day. And one final thing to close out our epic Midwestern road trip. Will you help us draw our final Chicago Sky jersey winner? I know you're big supporters of women's sports.
Yes.
So if you have your tickets out, we will go ahead and draw our last winner.
I love this.
Go ahead, Billy.
I feel like
if you
should do the honors since you actually lived in Chicago.
Well, and I did go to quite a lot of Sky games. Okay. I want this ticket. 285369. Honestly, what a perfect moment.
Oh!
Stop! No!
Yeah! All right.
We
have our winner. You want to let someone else win?
Okay, you do that.
Okay,
I'm doing it.
okay, we're drawing again.
But that was wild.
That's very generous.
Let's see. It's just going to be someone from Detroit. I'm just kidding. Okay.
Yeah. Put some Michigan magic on it.
285208. What? It's you? Oh. So close. 285208 must be present to win. Is that true?
It is true. All right, nobody's claiming it.
Okay.
All right.
Third
guys.
time's a charm.
Okay.
Tara, if it had been you, I would have fainted.
That'd have been great. 285-209. 285-209. Is it?
Hey! We have a winner.
Honestly, I could have done this all day. This is fun.
Amazing.
Okay.
Well, that concludes our female founder programming for this morning at Midwest House. Thank you again to Melissa Wyden, Nia Batts, Sophia Bush, Plain Sight, World Business Chicago, First Women's Bank, Get Cities. Oh, women support each other. 3+ VC and What She Said for supporting this morning's activities. And please, for the rest of the conference, let's make it our goal to provide an introduction or facilitate a valuable connection for at least one woman so we can keep supporting and uplifting each other. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much.